Welcome, everyone, to the Party Animal Podcast, episode number 2, Underage Drinking. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Luna.
So today we're jumping into a really significant topic, something that comes up a lot, especially around graduation time or, the start of summer.
That's right. We're looking at underage drinking.
Exactly. It's a conversation that's often on the minds of young people, maybe even more so when school's out. And there's this feeling of, newfound freedom.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more unstructured time, maybe less supervision.
Right. And we've gathered quite a bit of information research, legal perspectives, even some personal stories to really get a handle on the seriousness of this.
Yeah, our goal here isn't just to say, don't drink underage. We want to really explore the why behind that advice.
What are the actual consequences? Physically, academically, legally? What really happened?
Exactly. We're going to dig into the facts, look at what happens when that excitement about being free kind of clashes with the realities and risks of drinking before you're legally allowed to. And to make this real, not just abstract facts, we're going to start with a specific story, an anecdote, really.
Yeah, a situation that I think a lot of people can relate to. It helps frame that tension, doesn't it? Between wanting to live life, experience everything,
And making choices that are actually responsible and, frankly, safe for your future. It's that classic pull between the excitement of maybe a risky party versus, thinking things through.
It really is that moment where peer pressure feels intense and you have to decide what you actually stand for. So let's dive into that specific pressure point. We've got this story set in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, Kansas City. Let's set the scene. We've got 3 friends. Their names are Zoe, Noah, and Ava. They've just graduated high school.
Mm-hmm. That feeling, right? End of an era, start of something new. Freedom.
Total freedom. And they're getting that first real taste of summer. The world feels wide open.
And that's often the time, psychologically, when maybe risk assessment isn't at its peak. The desire for new experiences can sometimes overshadow caution.
And right on cue, temptation arrives. Zoe gets an invitation. It's for a nighttime barbecue party.
Okay, sounds innocent enough on the surface.
Well, here's the thing. The sources are clear. This wasn't just any barbecue. The person throwing it, they had a reputation.
Ah, okay. Not a good one, I'm guessing.
Not subtle, apparently. Known for wild parties. There were rumors flying around about tons of alcohol, people getting out of control, just generally reckless behavior. So, red flags from the start.
Right. That context is crucial. It ramps up the pressure immediately. It's not just deciding whether to have a drink, it's deciding whether to walk into a situation known for excess.
Exactly. And the way the 3 friends reacted really shows the different ways young people process this kind of decision.
Let's start with Zoe.
Okay, Zoe.
She was the adventurer of the group. For her, this party was a must-go. She saw it as breaking free from the routine, the monotony of high school.
Kind of shaking things off, embracing the new chapter.
Yeah, and maybe more than that. It felt like a way to fit in with a certain crowd, the popular kids. It was almost like social currency for her. That's a powerful motivator at that age. And how did she try to convince the others?
Well, her argument, which you hear a lot in these situations, was basically aimed at their fear. She told Noah and Ava they shouldn't let fear stop them from, quote, experiencing life to the fullest.
Ah, the life experience argument. Equating risk-taking with living authentically, that's a common but tricky justification.
Definitely tricky. Then you had Noah. He was kind of the opposite, the cautious one.
Okay, anger.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He had serious doubts right away. He wasn't just vaguely worried. He was thinking about actual consequences.
Like what specifically?
Legal trouble, mostly. What happens if the police show up? What are the risks to their safety, their well-being in that kind of chaotic environment? He was trying to inject some reality into Zoe's excitement.
So he was engaging the rational part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, maybe? Thinking about future outcomes.
Seems like it. While Zoe was maybe more focused on the immediate social reward, but the real struggle, according to the sources, was with Ava.
Okay, what was going on with Ava?
She was really caught in the middle, just torn. You could feel the internal conflict.
How so?
On one hand, she desperately wanted to belong, to keep that friendship group tight, to go along with Zoe. That pull is incredibly strong.
Yeah, fear of missing out, fear of being the odd one out.
Exactly. But on the other hand, she had this deep unease, a genuine fear about the party itself, the host's reputation, the unknown dangers. She was stuck between wanting validation from her friends and listening to her own gut feeling.
That sounds incredibly stressful, a really tough spot to be in.
Totally. And they're right there, on the edge of making the decision. Noah's laid out his concerns. Zoe's still pushing the adventurer angle.
This is the critical moment. What happens?
This is where Ava steps up. She finds her courage. It wasn't just about agreeing with Noah. She apparently spoke really honestly, from the heart.
What did she say?
She focused on the potential dangers, the actual risks involved, and framed it as needing to make responsible, almost adult choices now. She shifted the focus from just fun to safety and consequences.
Wow, that takes guts, especially when one friend is pushing so hard the other way.
It really does. And apparently, her sincerity really cut through. The whole dynamic shifted.
How did the others react?
Noah felt this huge sense of relief. He wasn't the only one feeling worried. He wasn't alone in his caution.
Mm-hmm. Validation for his concern.
And even Zoe, listening to Ava's genuine fear and Noah backing it up with the real possibility of legal trouble. Her excitement started to fade. She began to actually think about what could go wrong.
So Ava's courage kind of gave them all permission to pause and reconsider. It's like positive peer pressure. Almost.
Or maybe peer support winning out over peer pressure.
Yeah.
And the choice they made in that moment, it got validated almost immediately.
What happened?
Later that night, word gets back to them. The big, notorious barbecue party. It got raided.
No way. Why?
Police showed up because of noise complaints. Neighbors were fed up. And, probably didn't take long for them to see what was going on.
Underage drinking, likely very obvious.
Exactly. The outcome. Arrests were made. Citations were handed out. People got into actual trouble.
Wow. So Zoe, Noah, and Ava completely dodged that bullet.
Completely.
Yeah.
Just by having that difficult conversation and choosing not to go. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? These decision points are real. The pressure is intense, but the consequences can be immediate and serious. Choosing wisely isn't boring, it's smart, it's self-preservation.
Absolutely. And that Kansas City story is the perfect jumping off point to get into the specific risks Noah was worried about. Let's talk about the immediate health dangers.
Right. The physiological stuff. What actually happens to your body?
Okay, so first, just to be clear, when we say underage drinking, we mean anyone drinking alcohol below the legal age limit. And that age varies quite a bit around the world, right? Could be 16, 18, 21.
Sure, but biologically, drinking during adolescence is different, regardless of the specific legal age in a place.
That's the key point. The adolescent body and brain react differently to alcohol than in adults.
Okay, so let's start with the most severe immediate risk.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier, alcohol poisoning. Why is that a bigger danger for younger people?
It's a combination of factors, really. Physiology and behavior often play into it. Younger people, especially if they're new to drinking or if they binge drink, which is common at parties like the one described.
Right, trying to keep up or seem experienced?
Exactly. They often have a much lower natural tolerance. Their body mass might be lower. And crucially, their liver isn't always fully equipped to process large amounts of alcohol quickly.
So the liver gets overwhelmed.
Precisely. When you drink a lot fast, the liver enzymes that break down alcohol, things like alcohol dehydrogenase or ADH, just can't keep up.
Okay.
So alcohol builds up in the bloodstream. Your blood alcohol concentration, or BAC, spikes. And alcohol is a depressant. At high levels, it starts shutting down the essential functions controlled by the brainstem.
The brainstem controls, like basic life support functions.
Exactly. Breathing, heart rate, body temperature regulation. So high BAC can slow or even stop breathing. It can cause seizures, severe dehydration, hypothermia because your body can't regulate its temperature. People can choke on their own vomit if they pass out.
That sounds terrifyingly serious.
It is. It's a medical emergency.
Yeah.
When we talk about the severity of alcohol poisoning, we're talking life or death, and the risk is much higher when someone drinks a lot very quickly, which is typical binge drinking behavior often seen in underage party scenarios.
Okay, that's crystal clear. But even if it doesn't reach the point of fatal poisoning, there are other immediate health issues, right? Like cognitive impairment.
Yes, and this is incredibly important, especially for listeners who are students or just starting their careers. We need to talk about the developing brain.
What's different about the brain during teenage years?
It's undergoing massive changes. It's still developing, particularly the prefrontal cortex. Think of that as the brain's CEO. It handles planning, judgment, impulse control, risk assessment. It's the last part of the brain to fully mature.
And alcohol interferes with that maturation process.
Directly. Drinking heavily during this critical window can disrupt normal development. And we're not just talking about feeling fuzzy the next day.
Right. What are the lasting effects the research points to?
Well, the sources indicate potential for long-term cognitive issues. Studies have shown that heavy adolescent drinking can be linked to actual structural changes in the brain.
Like what kind of changes?
Things like reduced white matter integrity, White matter is like the brain's communication network, connecting different regions. Damage there can slow down information processing.
Okay, so if the communication lines are fuzzy, what does that mean day to day for someone trying to learn or work?
It can mean problems with working memory. That's your ability to hold and manipulate information in your head, like when solving a math problem or following complex instructions. It can affect attention span, problem-solving skills, even planning for the future.
Wow. So it could literally make it harder to succeed in school or a job, even long after the drinking stops.
Research suggests yes. Because the prefrontal cortex is finishing its development during adolescence, exposing it to a neurotoxin like alcohol during that time can potentially hinder its full capacity for things like learning, reasoning, and self-control down the line. It's a direct impact on your ability to think and function at your best.
That really underscores the seriousness. Okay, moving from the internal brain impacts to external risks.
Yeah.
Let's talk about accidents and injuries. This ties right back to that party environment in Kansas City.
Absolutely. Alcohol is a huge factor in accidents because it messes with three key things at once. Your judgment goes down, your coordination gets worse, and your reaction time slows way down.
A triple threat.
Pretty much. When all three are impaired, the chance of something bad happening just skyrockets, especially in crowded, maybe chaotic environments like a party where there isn't much supervision.
What kind of specific accidents become more likely in that setting, besides the obvious driving risks, which I know we'll get to?
Right, even besides driving. We see a big increase in falls, which can lead to concussions or other serious injuries, especially if impaired judgment means someone doesn't realize how badly they're hurt or refuses help.
Okay.
Burns are another one, especially if there's a bonfire, grill, or even just careless handling of cigarettes. Cuts from broken glass are common, and tragically, drowning risk increases significantly even in shallow water because coordination and judgment are so compromised.
So the environment itself becomes hazardous because the person navigating it is impaired.
Exactly. Alcohol basically turns everyday surroundings into potential danger zones. These immediate physical risks are bad enough, but they often trigger a cascade of other problems.
Which brings us to the next section, the behavioral, academic, and legal consequences. This is where the ripple effects really spread out.
Precisely. We move from the immediate physical impact to how behavior changes. The sources talk about a risky spiral.
Risky spiral, explain that.
It means that because alcohol lowers inhibitions and clouds judgment, people are much more likely to do things they wouldn't normally do things with potentially serious, long-lasting negative outcomes.
Okay, what kind of specific behaviors are we talking about?
Several key areas come up repeatedly in the research. One is engaging in risky sexual behavior, like having unprotected sex. Alcohol impairs the ability to assess risks and make safe choices in those situations, leading to risks of STIs or unplanned pregnancies. Alcohol also often acts as a gateway. Impaired judgment might make someone more willing to try other drugs or substances they'd otherwise avoid.
Right. And what about the one that endangers others most directly?
Driving under the influence. DUI. Even a small amount of alcohol can impair driving ability, affecting reaction time, coordination, and judgment behind the wheel. The statistics on alcohol-related crashes involving young drivers are devastating. It's a leading cause of death in that age group.
One bad decision with potentially fatal consequences for the driver and innocent victims. You also mentioned violence earlier. How does drinking contribute to that?
Alcohol can definitely fuel aggression. It disrupts the brain's ability to manage emotions and interpret social cues accurately. Someone drinking might misread a situation, perceive a slight where none was intended, and react aggressively.
So they're more likely to start fights.
Or become victims of violence themselves because their ability to recognize danger, de-escalate a situation, or physically defend themselves is significantly reduced.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the academic and social impact. Thinking about Noah and Ava and maybe their peers heading off to college or jobs, how does underage drinking affect school performance?
The impact can be really significant. Frequent drinking messes with sleep, which is crucial for learning and memory consolidation. It makes it harder to concentrate in class or while studying.
So grades suffer.
Yeah, that's often the first visible sign. Lower grades, missed assignments. But it's more than just bad marks on a report card. It can undermine the entire educational experience.
How so? Does it go beyond just grades?
Absolutely. Research links regular alcohol use in teens to poor attendance, being late for school, increased disciplinary problems, and even a higher likelihood of dropping out altogether. If partying and drinking become the priority over education, it fundamentally changes future opportunities.
And what about socially? How does it impact relationship?
It can really strain them. Friendships, family relationships, connections with teachers or coaches, trust can break down.
Because of unreliable behavior.
Mood swings, both. Plus, communication often suffers. If someone's life starts revolving around drinking, their genuine connections with people who aren't part of that scene can fade. Relationships become more superficial, maybe centered only on the next party. It isolates them from potentially positive influences.
Right. Okay, now let's zero in on what Noah was particularly worried about, the legal consequences. Let's be really explicit here. What happens when a young person gets caught drinking underage?
It's not just a slap on the wrist. In many places, it's a criminal offense, usually classified as a misdemeanor. The common charges are minor in possession, just having alcohol, even if you're not drinking it.
MIP.
Right. Also, public intoxication. And sometimes, if they supplied alcohol to others, they could face charges like furnishing alcohol to a minor, which can be even more serious.
So what does getting an MIP actually mean in terms of penalties?
It varies by state, but typically you're looking at hefty fines, maybe hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Court-ordered community service is common. Mandatory alcohol education classes.
Okay, that's inconvenient and expensive, but
But here's the one that often hits hardest. Driver's license suspension. Losing your license for months, maybe even a year or more, depending on the circumstances and location, for a young person needing to get to school or work, that's crippling.
totally undermines their independence. And what if it's more serious than just possession? What if it involves a DUI?
Then the consequences escalate dramatically. A DUI conviction, even for a first offense as a minor, can mean actual jail time, long probation periods, huge fines and legal fees, skyrocketing insurance costs, maybe even having an ignition interlock device installed in their car.
Wow, that's life-altering stuff.
It really is, and this is where the distinction between a minor infraction and something with lifelong consequences becomes very stark.
Which leads to the big, so what?
Yeah.
How do these legal issues affect someone long-term? Do they just disappear from your record eventually?
Not necessarily, and this is crucial. That conviction, even a misdemeanor MIP, creates a criminal record, and that record can absolutely impact future opportunities.
Like what?
Think about applying for college financial aid, certain scholarships, trying to enlist in the military, or getting licensed for specific professions, teaching, nursing, law enforcement. They often involve background checks.
And an alcohol-related offense raises a red flag.
A huge red flag. It suggests poor judgment, lack of responsibility. It can absolutely disqualify you. Many employers, especially for jobs involving driving, security, or working with vulnerable populations, do thorough background checks too. That youthful mistake can literally close doors years down the road.
So that one night, that one decision like the one facing the Kansas City Friends could prevent someone from getting the job they trained for a decade later.
It absolutely could. It's a potential lifelong barrier impacting career path and earning potential. It really drives home the weight of Noah and Veva's caution. And this long-term impact connects directly to our next section, the trajectory into adulthood, including the risk of addiction.
Right. Let's talk about that link between starting young and developing problems later. Is there a strong connection?
The evidence is overwhelming. Starting to drink alcohol at an early age significantly increases the risk of developing an alcohol use disorder, what used to be called alcoholism, later in life.
How significant is the risk?
Some key studies suggest that people who start drinking before age 15 are about 4 times more likely to become alcohol dependent at some point in their lives compared to those who wait until they are 21 or older.
4 times more likely.
Yeah.
Why is the young brain so much more vulnerable to addiction?
It goes back to brain development again, particularly the reward pathways. The adolescent brain is highly sensitive to rewards and novelty. Introducing alcohol, especially in binge drinking patterns, can essentially hijack or rewire those pathways very effectively.
Rewire them how?
It creates strong associations between alcohol and pleasure or stress relief. The brain learns quickly that alcohol provides a powerful, albeit temporary, fix. This process, sometimes called priming or kindling in addiction science, makes it much easier for drinking to become a deeply ingrained habit, a default coping mechanism that's hard to break later on.
So it lays down tracks for future problems, almost
Right.
setting a pattern.
Exactly. It establishes a pattern of potentially unhealthy coping that can persist long into adulthood. And this ties into the risk of other substance abuse, too.
How so? Is alcohol really a gateway drug?
There's a strong correlation. Early alcohol use is linked to a higher likelihood of trying other substances later. Part of it is the impaired judgment we already talked about. It lowers barriers. But it also might be that the brain pathways primed by early alcohol use are more receptive to the effects of other drugs. It creates a complex web of risk.
Okay. And let's circle back quickly to the cognitive effects. We talked about immediate impairment, but you mentioned lasting issues. Can you expand on the research there?
Yes, it's important to stress the potential for persistent cognitive changes. Heavy drinking during adolescence, and again, that often means regular binge drinking is associated in some studies with long-term effects. Research using brain imaging, like MRI scans, has shown differences in brain structure.
What kind of differences?
We mentioned reduced white matter integrity earlier. Some studies also show reduced volume in the hippocampus in adolescents who engage in heavy drinking.
The hippocampus.
Yeah.
That's critical for memory and learning, right?
Exactly. So reduced volume or impaired function in the hippocampus can translate directly into ongoing difficulties with forming new memories, learning new information effectively, even spatial navigation. And crucially, some research suggests these deficits can persist even years after the heavy drinking stops.
That's chilling. A choice at 16 or 17 impacting your memory function at 30 or 40.
It underscores the vulnerability of the brain during that developmental period. And all of this, the addiction risk, the cognitive impacts, feeds back into that core problem of impaired decision-making.
It becomes a cycle.
It can, yes. If your judgment is compromised long-term due to early alcohol use, it affects major life choices, education paths, careers, relationships, financial decisions. Poor choices can lead to stress, which might trigger more drinking as a coping mechanism, further impairing judgment. It's a vicious cycle.
A cycle that Zoe, Noah, and Ava managed to avoid by making that one crucial choice.
Precisely. They protected their future selves from potentially entering that harmful feedback loop.
Which brings us nicely to our final section, thinking about that choice. Choosing wisdom over wild parties. What's the big takeaway from the Kansas City story?
I think the core lesson is about what true strength and real connection look like. When they supported each other in saying no to that party, they weren't being weak or boring.
No, they were actually supporting each other's futures.
Exactly. They were implicitly supporting each other's dreams, aspirations, well-being. They realized, maybe intuitively, that their friendship and their individual paths were better served by making a responsible choice together, rather than chasing a fleeting, risky thrill.
They figured out that real friendship didn't depend on going along with something dangerous just to fit in.
Right. And that speaks volumes about self-worth. Their value as individuals and as friends wasn't tied to how well they performed in that specific party scene. It was found in their ability to be true to themselves, to prioritize safety, and to show genuine care for each other's welfare. That right there is maturity.
Regardless of their actual age.
Absolutely. It's not about the number on your ID. It's about the quality of your choices. The sources really emphasize that building a fulfilling life, finding yourself, forming genuine connections, that journey is navigated best through choices based on wisdom, responsibility, and mutual respect.
Their choice protected them from the immediate bust, sure, but also from all the potential long-term fallout we've just discussed, the health risks, the legal troubles, the cognitive impacts.
It's a powerful example of how one moment of clear thinking, perhaps fueled by Ava's courage and Noah's caution, can redirect a path away from significant harm. And that leads us to the final thought we wanted to leave with you, the listener.
Yeah, something to really reflect on. Here it is.
Age may define legality, but it doesn't determine maturity. True strength lies in making responsible choices, even when the temptation of underage drinking lingers.
That really sums it up perfectly. True strength is in the choice. We've covered a lot today, from the immediate dangers like alcohol poisoning, the risks to brain development, the accidents,
through to the behavioral spiral, the academic and legal fallout, and the very real long-term risks of addiction and cognitive impairment.
It all comes back to understanding the stakes involved in that choice. Before we wrap up, Luna, it's absolutely vital we mention resources, right?
Oh, definitely. If anything we've talked about today resonates with you personally, maybe you're worried about your own drinking or friends, please know that help is available.
Who should people reach out to?
Talk to a trusted adult, a parent, teacher, counselor, coach. Your doctor or another healthcare professional can provide guidance and resources. School counselors are often a great first step. There are confidential helplines and online resources specifically for young people dealing with substance use issues. The key is, don't try to handle it alone. Reach out.
Excellent advice. Asking for help is another sign of strength. Luna, thank you so much for walking us through all of this complex information today. It was incredibly insightful.
My pleasure. It's a really important conversation to have.
It absolutely is. We hope this exploration has given you, our listeners, some valuable perspective and information to help navigate these situations responsibly. Thank everyone for tuning in to the Party Animal Podcast. And check back in for future episodes. And please make sure to hit that like button, turn on notifications, and subscribe to help this podcast bring more awareness while enjoying an amazing time with others, minus the pitfalls. And be safe out there.